What is up, everybody? We are back with another episode of the Hobby with Cage. I think this is episode 5. Just did a couple of guest episodes. We had Bro Namath on, and you guys got to hear from Black Jaded Wolf and a Black Jaded Wolf on Cage. And it's just back to little old Cage. I can't really call myself little, but it's just me. I hope that's all right with you guys here. Friday night episode drop. Lots of crazy stuff going on in the hobby. I got to tell you, enough to definitely chat with you guys for a little while. I have some notes to go over, some fun stuff. I can start with that. On Wednesday night, I went to the Golden event, to kind of kick off and do some PR for their Golden Touch that released as you're hearing this today, or yesterday, if you're listening to this on a Saturday. And a little 6 episodes, the king of collectibles, the Golden Touch. As I record this episode, I watched 1 episode. It's a work day. It's hard to, binge all 6. I will watch all 6 by the end of the weekend. Any eyeballs on the hobby, on buying cards is, better than none. Although the first episode was pretty much more about Beanie Babies, it seemed, than collectibles. I mean, they managed to sneak, Peyton Manning, Drake, Mike Tyson, Joe They got everybody in the first episode somehow. And the triple logo man is mentioned, Jackie Robinson. It's all over the place. It's interesting. It's well done. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's going to be anybody watching it and running out and buying cards. But I'll get back to it in a second because I just drove back home before hitting record here today. And, the funny thing is the question is, what's that going to do? Is it going to add stuff? Are people like the general public going to start buying cards? And I had on AM radio as I was driving, and they were talking about the Yankees and Aaron Judge stealing bases when he shouldn't be and needs an MRI and all the injury stuff. And then you talk about how, they're making fun of the Yankees, and they made fun of the Mets fans, said, oh, you wish you had a team as good as Pittsburgh. And they were giving it was Craig Carton. They were giving him a hard time because Reynolds signed with Pittsburgh. He resigned. I think he signed like $100 million deal. And he predicted, I guess, or basically confirmed that Reynolds was going to come to the Yankees. The Yankees were going to trade for him, that, in the offseason, that was, hot stove. He was confirming it. Reynolds is going to be a Yankee. And as they were giving him a hard time for that, one of the, I guess, a show producer or, somebody else who was there said, I know this is true. Like, I know we're giving you a hard time, but I know you said this. And here's how I know. I'm waiting for him to say, like, on the day you said it, I had this dinner. You know what he said? He said, I know you said it because the day you said it, I went out and bought his baseball card. This is just talked about right now on the radio. I went out and bought his baseball card. And he said, what? Why would you do that? Like, why would, of all the things, if I say he's going to be a Yankee, why would you go out and buy his baseball card? And this individual said, because if you buy the card when he plays for Pittsburgh and he gets traded to the Yankees, the value of the card goes up and you could sell it for more. And they had a brief conversation about how that's sort of like, an alternate way of gambling or making a bet. Like the stock market is buying cards on a player you think is going to be traded to a bigger market and it's going to have more demand for the card. I found that very interesting, right? That to me was actually a little more confidence building about the hobby and the general population and, folks coming into this space than the Netflix show. I know that sounds crazy, but to me, just from a confidence perspective, just from a, wow, okay, people are actually thinking about cards, as a way to gauge a player, as a way to like, kind of make a play on someone. That was interesting because this is, mainstream media here. This is, 660 AM. This is, the sports talk show here in New York. And here they are talking about buying baseball cards. At the same time, I saw, on Instagram, like the Pelicans have a breaking cards in their stadium. So, I mean, layer all that on, layer in that Netflix show, layer on all that other craziness. And, it leaves me feeling good about the expansion of our hobby into sort of I call it the general public, the mainstream, whatever word you want to use, that people are, are being more exposed to it. Pepper in what I'm sure Fanatics is going to be adding into the equation over the next couple of years. And it paints a pretty good picture for, expanding the user base, right? They call it like, customer acquisition. My 7-Eleven has Pokemon cards and Topps cards at the counter. You go to pay, you pick up your coffee, you pick up your donut or whatever else you're buying, your bag of chips, and boom, they're right there. Hasn't been like that for a long time, years, maybe not since I was a kid. And I think you're going to see more of that as well. And that's kind of like a cool little commentary on, what the Netflix show and some of this other stuff might do to the space. The show itself, again, only seen episode 1. I put this in my story. Laura Golden was the star. I don't care. There's a lot of stars on there. Dave Ammerman and Alex and Ken Golden and all the NFL players that are there. Drake, you name it. Laura Golden was great. Like, I watched that scene. I was like, all right, this is awesome. Like, this was a good scene. Father daughter interaction. I guess I'm a girl dad also, so maybe that's kind of why that hit home. But fun stuff. I would suggest, if you're listening to this, it's definitely worth, consuming that content, right? As far as hobby content goes, that's it's pretty good, right? Obviously it's going to have a hell of a production value. I will say this though, here we are 6 minutes in and we're talking about Golden. I'm going to see Hamilton this weekend on Broadway with my family, for my daughter's birthday. And there's a song in the show Hamilton where they talk about, being in the room where it happens. And, there's a line in there about how, want to see how the sausage gets made, right? Sometimes I believe that it's better to have a little bit of mystery, right? To not know all the behind the scenes, right? Or my father would have said to me, keep your mouth shut and let people think that you're an idiot, instead of opening your mouth and proving them all right, right? So a little bit of mystery sometimes goes a long way. And I guess what I fear here is maybe people watching this like, this is what goes on behind the scenes. Like, this is how it works. And it loses a little bit of the kind of mystique. I haven't heard anybody else have that take, right? But, if you watch it, oh, this is how it's done. The Beanie Babies getting dumped on the table, and, it's an interesting thing to watch. And sometimes, if you shine a bright enough light on something, and people get to see kind of behind the scenes and how stuff is done. I don't know if you got a real behind the scenes view at what goes on in your favorite restaurant in the kitchen, if you'd go back there and eat there as often as you do now. It's kind of what I'm saying. So we'll see what happens. I got 5 more episodes. I will, I'm sure on my Monday episode, maybe, chime in on the rest of the season, tell you what I think about all of it. Right. And go there. Also, I guess that's a good point. I've kind of fallen into a Monday, Wednesday, Friday episode, with Tuesday morning being the hobby news week, the news week update from Cage. Pretty good, 5 weekdays and you're getting 4 pieces of content plus the other stuff that we're posting out there. I'm sure that will increase. People have reached out to me to be on the show. We'll have at least 1 guest episode. We're gonna continue to do, I hope, Black Jada Wolf Uncaged every other week, with Sharon. You guys really love that one. Let me know if that works for you guys. Throw a little comment in there. Let me know what you think about, what we're doing, whether or not that's enough. Should I be doing it every day? Or, is this a good cadence for now? Is there any other stuff you want me to kind of talk about? That would be great to, to chat about there. So there's Golden, and that's first. That's first right off the bat. Let's talk about some other fun stuff that's going on out there, right? And it's really interesting. The PWCC news. Have to be able to talk about this. And I used to say, hey, it's great to have a daily show. I guess it's good enough to have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show, right? I mean, something happens, on a Thursday, I'm going to be able to talk about it with you guys on a Friday. So you're still going to get kind of my take on it. And I will say this, I would have loved to have had somebody from PWCC on the show. I can understand why they don't want to be here. It's an interesting thing, right? It's sort of like a double-edged sword. Like, they could come out and talk about how, this was a necessary thing. They can come out and talk about, their vault and the like, but it's still a little fresh. It's still a little new. And it may look like they're kind of, out there defending when they don't need to be defending anything. I'll give you my take. Um, it's very interesting. I will tell you that it's very interesting. Um, you guys know right now, as I talk on this episode and every episode I've done here, I have no sponsors. I'm not partnered with PWCC. I have, nothing to say there, but I will tell you, they laid off people. I mean, I think that is a known fact. I'm not saying anything outside of school there. And they laid off some good people. Some people who I know very well, some people who have been with the company for a long time, some people who were very loyal to that company, some people who were there, during the PWCC versus eBay battle when, things looked pretty gray and, those people were there. So it's never a good thing, right? It is never a good thing when there are layoffs for a couple reasons. Number one, and this is probably the most important to the people listening, especially if you believe my TMs. It's sort of, portrays a message of, red flags, right? If they have to lay people off, does that mean that they have money issues? Does that mean that they are, they have problems? Does that mean that they're solvent? And then automatically it goes straight to the question that I got dozens of times in the last 24 hours. Should I be taking my cards out of the PWCC vault? If they're firing this many people, if they're laying off this many people, if they're letting go of this many people, doesn't that necessarily mean that my cards are at risk? I will answer that with a definite no. And I will let you guys know what I'm doing because that's, I guess, kind of, where I stand. I still have a significant amount of cards and a significant valuation of cards in the PWCC vault. I think it's natural to ask this question. I think it's important to have that conversation, right? Because you always want to balance out the safety, especially when you see something, that doesn't look the way you'd want it to look, right? I mean, obviously, we'd rather them be hiring 30 or 40 people than laying them off. And when you have this conversation here, we've seen other hobby companies, struggling. I put a request in for cards out of Star Stock. 3 graded Devontae Graham PSA 10s, and I think another Devontae Graham, like an autograph Prism rookie that I had in my vault. They were pretty much the only valuable cards that I had left in the Star Stock vault. I think I sold almost everything else that was there. And I put that request in last year. And I just got the cards last week. Glad I got them. It means that somebody's still over there doing it, but it does mean that it took, 4 months for them to process the cards and get them back to me. People see that and they worry. People see that, they see other hobby companies, and they worry. And it's okay. It's okay to worry. I don't think PWCC is anywhere near that type of position. They've been around for a very long time. And I think it's fair to say that just like people who were buying cards in the bubble, myself included, on the run up and have lost on some of those cards, again, myself included, I didn't lose $1 million, but then again, who does? You guys know what I'm talking about there. So I mean, I didn't lose $1 million, but there are cards that they ran during this this crazy last couple of years, and I'm certain that what happened with PWCC. By the way, that was a little Jeff Wilson did a video about I didn't lose $1 million, and it's actually worth listening to, guys. I think he gives me a shout out in it. Yeah, so that's the reason why you're it's worth listening to. But I mean, look, not everybody bats 1,000. Not everybody even bats, 500. In baseball, you bat 300 and you're an all-star. And data can be skewed any way you want, right? And if you just look at what somebody has bought as the market has done this, it's going to be a lot easier than if you pan that out, a couple years and don't take into account all of the wins. I would probably have a similar chart as well. I mean, and it's reasonable, right? I mean, if I were in the hobby buying cards, selling cards for profit, and then trying to roll that profit into other cards, necessarily I'm buying cards in 2021 and 2022 at a high point, but I'm only in those because I've made enough sales of cards and made profit on cards, to be able to roll that money in. So it's an interesting episode. Anyway, the point is, you have to take that same type of analysis in with PWCC. And I'm sure what wound up happening was during this run, during this, this hype cycle, they probably got a little too big too fast, right? And I think that's fair to say, right? And what happens with companies is they have to right size, especially a company like them that I believe is self funded. I don't think that they have, gone out and raised funding from venture capitalists or anything like that. They may have some strategic partners here and there. But I think that, this is unfortunate for the folks who were laid off. And, obviously I've already spoken to more than one, getting resumes from them, trying to help them out. And if you're listening to this and you're someone who was laid off by PWCC or any other hobby company, and you have a resume, send it to cagelawyer@gmail.com. Whether you're out in the Northwest, I know people there, whether you're here, whether there's something to relocate. I know people in the hobby who are looking. I know people, outside the hobby. One person I'm trying to place in the banking industry, so my heart goes out. That said, um, companies often do have to go through a restructuring like this. I worked at AIG over a decade ago, and they had the same kind of thing happen as well. And it doesn't mean that the company is going bankrupt. It doesn't mean that the company is done for. It just means that they've taken a look at what they need to do to right size and fix their own bottom line and make some changes. Unfortunately, the changes here come in the form of headcount. That's never easy. That's never fun, and it has a ripple effect in the hobby. I guess the sum and substance there is, I'm not taking my cards out of the vault. I'm sure those assets are fine. PWCC doesn't gain ownership of those cards. They're still yours. I believe. I mean, the user agreement changes pretty often. I'd have to check it again. But my cards are there. It is, however, a valid conversation to have. And what I would suggest you do is give them a call. If you really are concerned, about your assets there because of recent news, give them a buzz and, express your concern and have a conversation with them. I'm sure they'd be willing to take your call and talk you through, the safety of your assets. And if they're not willing to do that and they're not willing to spend time with you, the customer who has your assets in their vault, then I would tell you to take them out. All right. So, that that in and of itself is enough of a kind of a thing right there, right? Go ahead and reach out to them and make sure that they make you feel comfortable enough with your assets being there. And if they don't, take your stuff. And that, by the way, is a fun little segue into the next thing that happens when you have something like this occur. And it's an overarching thing, right? We still have this battle lines being drawn. We still have this, I call it the Montagues and the Capulets, right? It's, a little Romeo and Juliet, blood feud type of stuff. When things like this happen, other folks are going to come out of, of hiding. Other folks are going to come out of the woodwork and sort of, shots fired. If you haven't seen it, Rick Probstein posted a video basically saying, I'm not firing people, I'm hiring people. I need to hire another 3 people. I ship my cards fast. I get my cards out. I do advances fast, you name it. And it's shrewd, right? I mean, I think I even put a comment in there, Probstein comes out firing, bang, 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 I'd love it if, we all were able to play in this sandbox together and, kumbaya, everybody work towards one common goal. But these are businesses. They are competing businesses. And when you have something like, what happened with PWCC this week happen, I think it's natural for another business in the space to kind of come in and say, all right, well, you don't have to worry about anything when it comes to me. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I'm actually hiring people. I'd love to get to a space where everyone's hiring again. Everybody is doing well. Everybody's making money. But I don't know that we get there anytime soon. Remember, there's, crazy macroeconomic pictures. Here we have, we've been talking about this recession that's coming for the longest time. So it doesn't surprise me that there's a little bit of belt tightening going on in the hobby. Doesn't surprise me at all. But But I just wanted to make sure that I kind of chimed in, talked about that. So we have our golden party, which is fun. I got some fun golden tops cards. People are like, is that a new PSA label? I had to assure a bunch of folks that it's not a real slab. The certification number was like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It wasn't a legit slab. It's not like a new PSA label, but it's still pretty cool. That Topps did that, made cards. And it leads me kind of like to the final point I'm going to make. I had a great time at that event. I really did. I did a little reel about it. Go ahead and check that out. It's on my page, Cage Lawyer Instagram page, about some of the folks that I got to talk to. And it leads me to this. I don't know whether Bleecker Trading will be, the ones that do this. But we kind of do need more hobby events like that. It can't be cheap, and it doesn't have to be with all the bells and whistles. I mean, Michael Rubin was there, which is pretty amazing. DK Metcalf, it was in the city. I'm sure it cost Golden, a pretty penny to put that on as a PR event for their show. Maybe, a little lower scale than that. And maybe it could be, every other month. But I will tell you, those type of get-togethers, I think they're important for people. Like, I got to talk to people that I wouldn't otherwise talk to. I get to, rub elbows, mingle. And I'm not talking, again, not about Michael Rubin. I didn't bother Michael Rubin. I'm not going to go and talk to him. There are other people in the room who really want to get time with him. One day my time with Michael Rubin will come, I'm sure. But it was not Wednesday night at the Golden event. But instead, I talked to everybody else. You know what I mean? And I talked about my content, right? I talked about what I'm putting out for people and what they like, what they don't like, what they like to hear, what their ideas are for. There are companies that want to come on the show and talk about what they're out there building. It was great from a B2B perspective. It was great from just a hobby perspective, from a collectibles perspective, from a, hey, what are you collecting? Hey, what do you think about the hobby? Seeing people, talking to people, having conversations with other people in the space is important. It doesn't happen enough. I know there's the Dallas show and this stuff. I would love it if someone at the time the Dallas show happens every other month also put on sort of like, it's not a trade night, maybe a happy hour. You know what I mean? Where there's a mingling of people and people get to kind of talk, share ideas, move through the room, 5-10 minute conversations here and there. Because I will tell you, I record this less than 48 hours after that meeting. I've had no less than 10 business calls with hobby folks who are either pitching ideas to me, companies who want to sponsor the podcast or who want to come on and talk, that came out of that one night at Golden. I think the hobby kind of needs more of that, a little more FaceTime, a little less internet craziness, because when you have internet craziness, right, you get I get to talk about it again. You get the Tim Slabstrong and Hobby Shark fighting with each other. And for the life of me, I don't even know what they're fighting about. Right. But they're fighting. And Probstein is out there attacking PWCC or, putting out videos. I don't want to say attacking. And if you're just in that Instagram space, the hobby is just this. It's just boom. It's just, we're all beating our heads against the wall and we're all attacking each other. And it looks like a pretty, combative space, to say the least. And in person, in a room, that's not the way that this hobby is. Everyone's friendly. Everybody's happy. Everybody's sharing in the excitement and the optimism of more people coming into the space. They're sharing ideas. They're pitching business ideas. There are two businesses talking to each other about synergy between those two businesses and how they might be able to work together. And, I can't do it. I'm not one of these hobby companies. Like I said, maybe Bleecker is able to do it in New York. Maybe somebody out in Dallas can do something like that as part of like the Dallas show. Maybe Burbank can do it when they do the Burbank show. I just think it's one of those things. It had me thinking after this event that, yeah, I didn't get time with Ken Golden. I didn't. But I got time with a whole bunch of other people, right? And had great conversations. I made a reel about that, but I actually meant it. People I don't get to talk to that often. Sure, we talk, DMs on Instagram, but it's not the same thing. And that was just one of those fun things. I want to throw it out there, not just because, hey, it's a business idea. Somebody should go out there and throw events and happy hours and you name it. But I think it's an important thing for folks to know that what you see in social media, it's not what happens in person. There's an entire different side of what goes on. And I think, I'm trying here with the content to try to, counterbalance the all of the negativity that you see on IG and on social, hobby social. Because it's just easy to do that. It's easy to, you get eyeballs that way. I want to make sure you guys know that if you were in that room, I think you would have left with optimism about the hobby as well. Not because it's a golden event and because of Netflix. That's a great thing. But just because you can tell there are conversations happening with people looking to really advance the hobby and move it forward. And, that's kind of where I go with that. Yeah. We're 25 minutes in. I told you guys I'll try to keep these things to 25 minutes to a half an hour long. I came in with specific topics. If anybody has any questions about the PWCC stuff, more than just telling me, should I take my cards out of the vault? Because I'm getting a lot of those. You know, I do think you can reach right out to PWCC, but please go right ahead and reach out to me. And I will, I can reach out. I can ask some questions. I can try to pass questions on for you, if it's something that, that you need to ask. But go right ahead. That's what they're there for. They are customer service folks, ready to answer your questions. We talked about the golden stuff. And yeah, I'll be back next week with some episodes. I hope you guys enjoy this. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back soon. Take care. And that's the Hobby with Cage, episode 5. Oh, one more thing. I've never asked this. I literally have never asked this. Subscribe. If you're listening to this, make sure that you get, automatically that you signed up for notifications for you listening to it audio, on Spotify or on Apple. On YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. The subscriber numbers have actually gone up a little bit this week. So some folks are doing that. They say smash that like button, hit that. What do they say, buddy? They say smash the like button. What's the words? Pound the like button. And what else? What about subscribed? Is there something? You just made pound up? You're just making up because it sounds funny? He likes pound. Pound's his new word. Yeah, come on. Whatever you're going to do, hit the button, Subscribe if you can. I would appreciate it. Smash the like button and hit that subscribe. And guys, comment. I'm responding to every one of your comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about this PWCC stuff. Let me know what you think about Probstein coming out and kind of, taking a shot. Let me know what you think about the Golden Show as well. Thanks, guys. Enjoy, and we'll talk to you in a couple of days.